Now I'd like to transition to one of my favorite parts of Kin Global every year, the part that celebrates our students at Kellogg. Well, after all, we wouldn't be a university without students. So early on, we had student teams in Kin Global early 7 years ago working on interesting problems. They thought that was kind of neat. We transitioned to a prize. We gave $100,000 away. Sorry, guys, no money this year. And honestly, it was great. And you're going to hear from Brian Hill in a couple minutes, who is one of our winners and has gone on to do, as you will hear, great things. But it also required us to raise $100,000 every year from all of you. So I was trying to think about how we create an intense experience that's valuable, useful, that illustrates the kin, that supports the kin, that also provides a great experience to our students. And that became the Kin Challenge. Last year it was a pilot. You might remember a few teams with us, Governor Hickenlooper, Esther Dyson, and Ann Hand, Governor Hickenlooper from Colorado. I think we have a video from the governor, Brian? I guess we don't have a video from the governor, Brian. If we find it, we'll play it after. But the governor told us that the work the challenge team did last year, this is 100% true. They used as part of their case to defeat some legislation in Colorado and to introduce and win the case for new legislation in Colorado. He said it had that much impact for what they were trying to do in funding large-scale public works in new ways. So that worked. It was a pilot. There was no credit involved for the students. It was an extracurricular commitment. So we thought, you know, why don't we institutionalize this, make it into a 4-credit class so they get some value beyond meeting all you lovely people and the experience of justifying our existence on Earth and all that. So they get course credit, and they also had the opportunity to work for the whole quarter as part of an ongoing class. And I'm grateful to them all for putting up with me because, as I told them, this is a pilot now as a full credit class. We're inventing this as we go along. And I think it was pretty good. It was so good that it became very difficult for us to make decisions in terms of who is going to be selected to present. So first of all, before we talk a little bit about these challenges and challengers, I'd like to introduce to you Brian Hill. Brian was one of the Kin Prize contestants in 2013. Those of you who were here might recall that there were teams that came and presented a mission vision they had for the world in order to compete for this $100,000. And then everyone in the room was a judge. Everyone got to allocate $500 of real money to whichever team they felt would have the most impact. Well, Brian and his colleagues' team won with Jail Education Solutions. So I'd like to introduce to you Brian Hill to update us on what's going on at JES. Give us a quick update.
You bet. So first of all, I remember during Kin the most valuable thing as it got towards the very end of the voting. I turned to my co-founders. I said, you know, I don't really care about the financial aspects of this victory. Just to be able to come back to Kin again is really I think the biggest win out of this. And so it's been great. It was fun coming back again a little bit last year and dancing in and out this year as well. But quick update on where we are. If you remember, when we originally pitched the idea to you, we realized that 12 million people cycle through our jails and prisons annually. In America, that's a huge problem. We over-incarcerate pretty heavily. And right now, these 2 million who are sitting on a daily basis are watching daytime television. And as much as we love our Maury Povich and Jerry Springer, they're not the best behavior modification tools for a population that could really use the help in the education. And so we propose putting education and vocational training and treatment programming onto the television since the infrastructure was already there. In October, we launched that right after Kin. And what I find and what I tell other social entrepreneurs is you want to get married to the outcomes that you want, but not the idea, because the idea is often wrong. And it took about less than a minute sitting in Division 5 of Cook County with lots of inmate friends of mine to realize that we were very wrong in our approach. And we needed to individualize the learning, and we needed to create tangible outcomes that they could take away. And we needed to find a way in which they could justify it among their peer set. And shortly after that, we introduced the tablet. This is an opportunity. Our Adovo educational platform now is rolling in 4 states across the country, from coast to coast in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, here in Chicago, in the juvenile centers, and out in California. And thousands of people have been able to use the tablets and engage with educational, vocational, and treatment programming. Again, it individualized learning, it provided tangible outcomes. And if there was ever a question that there was incredible potential behind bars in our country, consider that question answered. Our top 5 trending classes in Philadelphia right now, uninfluenced, are mathematics basics, arithmetic, reading language arts, Christian studies, and cognitive behavioral therapy. I couldn't hand select a more specific set of courses that I would hope they were engaging with. And yet, unabated, without any encouragement, all we do is we've created an incentive-based learning platform that allows them to earn points while doing self-improvement content, and then spend those points on some entertainment options. So there's both a short-term carrot as well as the tangible outcomes that they can continue after release through probation and parole. The other big driver that we get questions about, among the many thank yous and appreciation that we see through the feedback, we get a lot of questions about vocational training, additional vocational training, because there's a strong concern and interest to be employed when they're released. And so it's an exciting time for us. When I see sort of the theme of this year's KIN, I feel like this is where we are. This year is about growth for good in our world. I continue to reiterate that Jail Education Solutions and our Dovo platform is exactly what America needs right now. We have to unlock the immense human potential that is perpetually behind bars. So thank you again for your support.
Brian, in the journey, and by the way, I have to underscore again, when they came to us originally, you already had the idea, you had a team together, you had already moved things forward with the Cook County Jail system, so it wasn't starting from a PowerPoint deck, but you were pretty early.
Close, yeah.
Pretty early,
Pretty
right?
close, yeah.
What's been the hardest that you've encountered over the last year and a half or two?
Yeah, I think probably the most significant challenge is that technology just does not exist in corrections at any level, really. And so I think the Huffington Post, when they ran an article on us, said it best, that the next tech boom in America will come behind bars, but helping them understand that, yes, we can deliver connectivity in a secure way that doesn't, that isn't allowing, the Googles and the Facebooks of the world to be accessed, without discretion. That we can truly make it an environment for learning, and that this can have impact, has been a tough sell for corrections. Even though we call it the correctional institution, the focus is less about rehabilitation and more about incarceration, but that conversation is changing. And so we've really blown open the doors, and it's an exciting time, but those conversations are probably the toughest.
So what's next for Jail Education Solutions?
Yeah, so we are launching in quite a few facilities across the country this year. I think because this is our time for growth, now that we've sort of proven out the model, we'll probably likely be doing another funding round, and then and really some of the lessons that we've actually learned here at KIN, we're thinking about trying to identify how can we involve the micro communities around the facilities to engage in and support financially and through a content perspective what's happening in their facility, because the conversation is
micro
changing.
community, what do you mean?
Yeah, so an example would be we're looking to launch in Sacramento, but when we launch, no one knows about it because no one's spending time thinking about jail. And so what we'd love to do is find all the people who are interested in the there's a lot of people who are sympathetic to this cause, but can we engage them in an early stage, and actually in areas where we don't have as much buy-in from the administration, can we get them to help through the Indiegogo campaigns like we talked about yesterday, get that involvement early, so that way there's a financial impetus to say, not only can you do this, but you automatically have buy-in because the community's already bought into this idea. So
the micro community means the community outside the jail.
Outside the jail, yeah.
Finding the individuals who are engaged or could be engaged or sensitive to being infected.
Exactly,
basically.
yeah.
Susceptible. Exactly, yeah. Wow, that's great. So in addition to giving you lots of money, how can we help?
That's right. Lots of money. No, we like you said, we are looking to do a financial round, but also philanthropic dollars in a social enterprise setting really help us to build out areas that we wouldn't otherwise be able to build out.
Because you're a for-profit, right?
We are,
You're also a social enterprise, and you're able to play both sides.
We are, yeah. And MacArthur's been a great support, and the Chicago Trust has been a great support. So where we have
I think you met MacArthur here at KIN, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of good connections here at KIN.
Good. Glad to hear.
And so again, philanthropic dollars really allow us to expand into areas that we otherwise couldn't expand into when we have to keep a maniacal focus. But the second area is content. I mean, there's a lot of you who do a lot of training with companies, vocational training and things like that. We have the ability to bring all of that content and deliver it through our digital platform. And so if there's opportunities there to bring that content live, that would be incredibly helpful as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you. The kin at work, it's incredibly impressive what they've accomplished, difficult to describe in 5 minutes. So now I'd like to transition to our kin challenges for 2015. Again, they've been working on these for this 10-week quarter, but really to be fair, it's been about 8 weeks. They were all eager to help, they're all eager to provide and here was the question, to the challengers, like Howard Tullman. Howard, what is a question that if we had a group of Kellogg students motivated to spend a quarter to work on, to come up with ideas, might add value for you and your organization? And so we worked with them to come up with a challenge, but they were fuzzy challenges at the beginning. And as you might experience in your own life, oftentimes at the very beginning you don't really understand what it is you're exactly looking for. You don't have a scope that is well-defined. So the challenge was high level and general on purpose, directional. The first thing the teams had to do was say, well, what exactly is the challenge? And iterate a little bit with their challengers, who, by the way, are very busy people. And then second, they had to scope. What's in scope? What's out of scope? That's a tough question when you're trying to save the planet. What's in scope? What's out of scope? And then, after they did that, and I asked them to avoid trying to solve the darn problem until we have an understanding what it is, get the scope down, and then we start to work and iterate on the problem, and then we come up with an alpha, we share and have some feedback, then we came up with a beta just last week, and Karen Van Camp, Professor Van Camp, came in. She's a public speaking communications professor here at Kellogg. Gave them a little bit of coaching. You've made lots of changes. So this has all happened in 8 weeks. All right? And honestly, when we went in for the competition, there was a competition Thursday night in this room, the 7 teams presented. 3 were to be selected to present. And to be honest, I thought that, this isn't going to be too hard because, there are going to be 1 or 2 teams that are just, sorry, you didn't make it. And that's going to make my job easier because I can write an eval and toss it off and then say, well, who are the 3? But you know what? Everyone, and I'm really not just saying this, every one of the teams could, by all rights, be standing up here presenting. We don't have time. And so we were dying to try and figure out, the judges, the student leaders, how are we going to crack this nut? And we decided, first of all, we're going to get 4 teams down here, but within our time slot available. And Howard Tullman, as you see here, had 2 teams. There were so many students interested in working on the meta-entrepreneur question that you'll see that I didn't want to exclude I wanted to offer 2 teams the opportunity to work with Howard on that question. Same thing for Craig Howe. You'll meet Craig in the next segment about the business of sport. If you could go, or maybe I did that, sorry. Oh no, you're fixing something? Okay. So we had 2 teams with Craig Howe on the business of sport, which, as you'll hear in the next panel, is quite exciting. So I asked the 2 1871 Howard Tullman teams to combine. So that brought 4 teams into the tent. And additionally, I'll say a little bit about the sports teams with the panel that follows. And then finally, David Gale, whom you met yesterday, had a great team with some veterans in it, helping We Are the Mighty think about that big event he mentioned, the South by Southwest for the military, for this brand that he's building, this movement that he's building. And they did some really extraordinary work and trying to figure out what is the next horizon beyond that, and how do you activate that program. So the teams you're going to hear from were representing the challenge from Isaac Fokuo, whom you met yesterday, the fellow who ran in from Africa at the last minute and sat down during the panel, drove from New York City in order to be here on time. We're going to hear from the 1871 teams, Howard Tullman's teams, and we're going to hear from Team Swire for Future Brilliance. Unfortunately, she's not, oh, there she is. Thank you for fixing that on the fly. Team Swire, Sophia Swire's team, will give us the grand send-off. So what I've asked the students to do is, as efficiently as possible, and by the way, this is, if you've never done this before, it's very difficult for anyone. state the entire challenge and what you did and what your solution is in 12 minutes. They each have 12 minutes to do this. And by the way, this is part of the exercise. Try and do anything meaningful on stage in 12 minutes. I certainly fail at it, that's for sure. So, in any case, with that, I'd like to introduce to you our China-Africa team.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. I would like to introduce you to Moses. Moses just graduated from a technical training school in Kenya, where he studied mechanical engineering. He's excited about his future, and he applies for several positions in the construction sector, the sector that grows the most in Kenya. After 2 months, however, Moses got rejected in every application that he did. He's desolate. His investment of time and money was worthless. Moses ended up as an assistant in a Chinese construction company. In his mind, he thought, I will start from the bottom, but I will ramp up soon. After 6 months, however, his manager, Mr. Sheng, told him that he didn't have the required skills or the required experience to become an engineer in the company. Moses' story is similar to the story of thousands of other Kenyan students who graduate each year. In order to change the fate of these students, our challenger, Isaac Foucault, in the back, proposed for us, how can we build a sustainable pipeline of talents and place them in managerial and technical positions in Chinese companies? As you can imagine, this is a very complex challenge, and we divided it into two parts.
I've got to run back in, because I actually shouldn't
First
even
part,
be out here.
why there is a lack of talents. What's happening today is that the African technical training schools, they lack updated equipment, updated teaching material, well-qualified teachers, and finally, it's being taught, it's different from what's being required by the companies. As a result, a large number of students that graduate are now unemployed. On the other side, there is a cultural clash with the Chinese companies. The Chinese companies rely heavily on certificates, and they prefer to work with Chinese workers due to same culture and same work style, even though it's 5 times cheaper to hire an African local. Also, the Chinese lack the understanding of local culture. As a result, what you can see is that Chinese companies find it hard to place African in those skilled positions. The question is, how can we solve this immense variety of problems and these different problems? Shivi will present to us our solution.
Thank you, Rogerio. If we were to take a step back and look at the problem from a broader perspective, we acknowledge that there are many geopolitical and socio-economical factors in play contributing to this problem, yet are outside of our control. Thus, our project and goals focus on fixing the broken linkage between the supply and demand of talent. We aim to design a solution that transforms the local technical vocation education in Africa and enhances students' job readiness, and at the same time, transforms Chinese company by encouraging them to adopt a more rigorous, structured corporate practice as China goes global. To achieve our goals, we have defined 3 guiding design principles. First, simplicity. How easy it is to implement our solution. How can we start actioning today? Second, reciprocity. How might we create a collaborative model that facilitates partnerships from both the African as well as the Chinese side? Third, we evaluate our solution based on the scale of impacts that we can create. As part of our DECIDE efforts, we have conducted a number of interviews across academia, companies, governments, foundations, and schools. We've also studied successful technical vocational training models across 4 continents. Our model encompasses 3 major phases, from leveraging the existing short-term skill building competition to identifying pilot schools to launch pilot training programs to ultimately empowering the entire vocational education system across the continent. Our model also involves and actively engages with many stakeholders as we move through the 3 phases. Now let's talk about the phases one by one. At the initial stage, we want to leverage and build upon the existing competition model to generate quick wins and build up momentum. The purpose here is really to start the conversation and keep it going among various stakeholders. Through our interview, we learned that last summer, a Chinese equipment manufacturing company, AVIC International, has launched the African Tech Challenge as part of their corporate social responsibility, CSR initiative, to provide technical trainings in form of a competition to improve local workers' working skills and operating certain set of machines. This was a successful effort, largely praised by the Education Bureau of Kenya, as well as the Chinese government. We want to build upon this momentum and expand it to cover more skills, involve more companies, as well as empowering more students and trainers in Kenya. Next, Susan's gonna talk more about the second phase.
Thanks, Chevi. Phase 2 is where we are going to fix the broken link between the demand and supply of local talents. We will go out to the market and find what the market needs, then tailor practical curriculum to address those needs. During phase 2, there will be more stakeholders involved, including multinational foundations and governments in both China and Africa. We have designed a systematic pilot training program based on 4 critical processes: funding, recruiting, training, and placing. How is our program different from the current ones? First, the current technical training are too theoretical. To address this problem, the program will have a big focus on hands-on training. The students will have a lot of hands-on experience in their first 3 months in the training program. From months 4 to 6, they will have one-on-one matching internship, which could lead to full-time opportunities. Second, to fill in the gaps between different cultures, our program will cover trainings on culture and social norms to bring in true collaborations and understanding. Third, to enable the financing flexibility, we propose a unique co-payment model. There will be 3 parties involved in this model. First party is government and foundations, who will provide the seed funds. In return, they will be able to enable this great initiative and inspire the next generation of African leaders. Second party involved here is partner companies. The benefits of them to join this program is to recruit the top talents and create a sustainable talent pipeline. It's also a great opportunity for them to improve their reputation as responsible corporate citizens. The last party involved here is students. The students will be more involved and motivated during the training program, since they know there are full-time opportunities lined up at the end of the program. We will also develop systematic metrics to measure our success. We are looking at scale, for example, the number of students trained. We are looking at financial sustainability, for example, ROI. Most importantly, we are looking at impact. For example, the increased income. Our program will increase the students' average income by 3 times. Think about those increased income. They will be spent on housing, food, education, extra business, and their dreams. This will create a very positive impact, not only on individual lives, but also on the whole society. Now I'm going to pass to Kitty to talk about the third phase.
Thanks, Susan. So in 3 years, our program will be fully integrated into the technical vocational training system in Kenya. And our focus in phase 3 is going to be expand and scale our pilot. To achieve this, we're going to leverage cross-sector partnership, industry alliance, and multinational organizations to help deepen our impact and grow our footprint. So let's now revisit our 3 design principles to see how our model can help to achieve our goals. First, simplicity. Our model is based on the current vocational training system in Kenya and can be easily replicated and expand into other industry and other Africa countries. Second, reciprocity. The design of the model focuses on aligning the interests of different stakeholders and trying to create a partnership upon them all. From the Chinese company side, our model helps to improve their reputation as responsible corporate social citizen in Africa. And furthermore, by contributing their machinery into our training program and to help train our trainers, the Chinese manufacturing company can actually help improve their local sales and build up their future business. So in other words, the machine they put into our program is actually a business development investment instead of a feel-good donation. And also from the Africa student side, our program helped to give them access to practical training and help to improve their future employability. Lastly, impact. The first impact our program has is to empower the future generation of Africa leaders and trying to inspire growth for good. And secondly, we believe in the transformative power of our training model to build better schools and, more importantly, to create stronger connection between the local students in the schools and the Chinese companies. And then we can use our model to expand into other industry and other African countries to create better impact. So in the future, when our program is successfully rolled out, we are now very confident to see a big smile on Moses' face. Instead of feeling frustrated about his future, Moses will be now very optimistic about finding a technical position after his graduation. And the reason why we are talking about Moses is because he actually represents thousands of Africa talents that need our program. They need our program to bring a big smile on their face and to create a better future for them. And even to go beyond this, these talents will actually become catalysts for fostering better collaboration between the Chinese company and the local environment and to create better good in Africa continent. At the very end, I would like to bring my team on the stage. We'd like to dedicate our presentation to our beloved team member, Benji Kojo. It was unfortunate that he is not able to join us today and share with you all about his passion on Africa and try to build a better future for Africa continent. But we believe he's now listening to us, and we hope he will rest in peace. Thank you very much.
I was going to mention Benji after. I will mention him after, so it will make more sense to all of you at that time. Simplicity, reciprocity, impact. Those are design principles that the team came up with around which they built their solution. And Isaac Fokuo is in a position to potentially make that happen in Africa, so it's quite exciting. Now let's turn it over to the Meta Entrepreneur team. Take it away.
Great. Hello and good morning. My name is Claire, and I'm delighted to be here today with two of my teammates, Blair and Navi. We're also honored to be representing our larger student team. For our Kin Challenge, we worked with 1871. 1871 is an ecosystem right here in Chicago, and it's made up of talented entrepreneurs. I know that there are many of you in the room today, and led by Howard Tolman, the incredible meta entrepreneur that we got to hear from in yesterday's panel. I want you to imagine now that you are Howard Tolman. Shouldn't be too hard for you, Howard. First of all, congratulations. You will never sleep again. You are also running a successful incubator that has opportunities around the world and access to individuals everywhere. However, Howard, how do you decide which of these opportunities you're going to take advantage of? Where and how do you build global relationships that can have the most impact on your organization? These questions were at the heart of our Kin Challenge. How should incubators like 1871 leverage global opportunities? And so the approach that we took was looking at this challenge from two perspectives. First, we looked inward. We wanted to focus on local partnerships that could be built and scaled up. Oftentimes, incubators are working with limited resources and very lean teams. And so, how can an incubator maximize their local partnerships to actually go global? We then moved over and focused on looking outward. We wanted to determine where the gaps were in current local connections or global connections that were happening in incubator operations. And so, we're going to walk through our approach today and our solutions. I invite you all to think about how you and your organizations can partner with incubators, whether they're in your own home city or around the world, to have access to and build innovation. I also want you to think about taking our ideas and applying them to your own entrepreneurial efforts that are happening within your organizations. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Navi, and she's going to talk about local partnerships.
Great. So as Claire mentioned, the heart of our first solution was that to go global, simply look local. And just as a side note, this was one of our first Slava moments. And what we'll do today is we're going to be looking at the city of Chicago. And putting our Chiberia winters aside, we just want to remind you that these concepts can be applied to cities around the globe. So the way that we arrived at our first solution was by looking at analogous environments where global partnerships have been successful, such as religions, universities, and music festivals. And a few questions that we asked ourselves were, how exactly do religions attract and maintain such dedicated worshipers? And why exactly do people drive out to the middle of the desert to attend the Burning Man festival? And we determined that these organizations were excellent at using the assets and resources they already had. For example, religions were able to harness the power of their stories and legends that they were built upon to create a sense of pride amongst their worshipers. And similarly, music festivals were able to leverage the brands of the artists that performed there to generate a buzz and create an unforgettable experience. So these organizations used the assets that they had to create a hub and develop an expertise which naturally attracts the right partners. So we extended this thought process to 1871, an organization with local, deep-rooted resources. And 1871 can firstly leverage international communities right here in Chicago. 1871 can also scale academic partnerships with excellent institutions in the city. The organization can also capitalize on global headquarters of companies located in the Chicago area. And finally, the organization can engage pivotal individuals that help to shape and mold the future of the city. So let's explore each one of these in a little bit more detail, and once again, we'll use 1871 and Chicago as an example. So international communities. These are communities that represent diverse and hardworking individuals that have strong ties to their home communities and to entrepreneurs who live there, providing a direct channel for 1871 to leverage. However, from an entrepreneurial lens, these individuals often face procedural red tape and lack of opportunities to actually prove their capabilities. Oftentimes, agencies do exist to provide convening platforms for these communities. And here in Chicago, the Office of New Americans, an organization that 1871 can partner with, provides supporting mechanisms for immigrants and resources to help immigrant entrepreneurs scale their businesses. Second, we look at academic partnerships. Academic partnerships, institutions that attract global talent and have global footprints. Chicago is home to world-class institutions, as we all know, but oftentimes, Chicago also faces brain drain. And as we all know, in order for local economy to thrive, businesses must be able to attract and retain talent. So 1871 can scale its existing partnerships with universities like Northwestern, where we all are today, that has global campuses, and also institutions like the Illinois Institute of Technology, which produces some of the best and brightest engineers. These partnerships will attract entrepreneurs studying in other countries to come to Chicago, and will also encourage these entrepreneurs to stay in Chicago to pursue and grow their own businesses. Like we all know, Chicago is also home to many Fortune 500 companies, which are all near and dear to our hearts. And these Fortune 500 companies often have vested interest in innovation and local economic growth. Partnerships with these corporations not only give entrepreneurs resources and expertise, but also allow them to scale their businesses with new markets. And in turn, these organizations have the access to innovative and talented entrepreneurs. But like Howard said yesterday, we want to avoid the petting zoo effect. So these organizations can help the entrepreneurs scale their businesses. So let's take, for example, an entrepreneur in 1871 working in telecom. A partnership with Motorola would help that individual have access to developing markets to test their products, and in turn, Motorola will have first look at an innovative product with huge potential for success. And finally, as we go about building all of these partnerships, it's important to remember the individuals that are part of these organizations. So let's engage them as well. Ad hoc relationships with individuals are just as important as partnerships with organizations. Just look around the room at the admirable Kinnians and all of your extensive networks. I'm sure that many of you have worked with organizations like 1871, not only to provide mentorship, but also to attract talent. Individuals like yourselves bring the X factor to an organization that lifts it from being just good to being great. Now that we've looked at 4 assets that organizations can use to leverage local partnerships, how do you actually go about prioritizing these? We've identified 6 key metrics in order to help you measure partnerships, and all of these metrics should be weighted differently depending on a partnership. So for example, let's take a look at Motorola again. Perhaps that partnership should be higher on your priority list because of the tremendous global reach and the ability to influence, even though this relationship may require a great deal of effort. So these metrics allow incubators and other organizations like 1871 to measure and evaluate their partnerships on both an external and internal level. Now that we've explored global engagements from a local level, I'll leave you with Blair, who'll discuss the global ecosystem.
So that's just step 1. After incubators tap global resources in their own neighborhoods, we believe that they can supercharge their impact by tapping into a global ecosystem. So being a group of MBA students who obviously know everything at this point in our careers, we thought we would just double check by going out and talking to people around the world. We talked to over 40 entrepreneurs across 4 continents, venture capital firms, other incubators, including H-Farm. We talked to other organizations that know a lot about global partnerships, from the private sector, like expert network groups, and public sector, like Chicago's Sister Cities programs. Our guiding question throughout all of this was, what are the pain points that entrepreneurs have that could be solved in some way by global partnerships? going back. So in full disclosure, I am an entrepreneur. I've recently started an ed tech company. But this is not just a word cloud of my own current state of thought. It's the problems that we found over and over again as we talked to entrepreneurs. And in particular, we found three main categories of problems. First is speed of execution. You may think that startups fail because they run out of money. Sometimes they do, but more often they run out of time. Time is the precious commodity, and startups need to act so quickly. Second, business development. Obviously, founders are so concerned with all things related to growing and scaling their business, but there are unique challenges here because they're introducing something that the world hasn't seen before. And lastly, mentorship. Entrepreneurs really need this. The problem is that entrepreneurs tend to have such specific questions that are unique to them, and they need answers almost immediately. To further illustrate our story, we'd like to introduce Asaf, who has a medical startup in Tel Aviv. He's had a lot of great support from his local incubator, but like a lot of Israeli founders, he started his business with a global mindset, knowing he would need to enter international markets. But he doesn't know how. He's heard the buzz about Silicon Valley, but he asks himself, is that really where my customers are? How do I even go about finding them? Our solution for Asaf and our vision is the Meta Incubator. So Rob, we have a Meta Incubator for your Meta entrepreneur. We start with Asaf in Tel Aviv. He's able to quickly and easily access the right incubator in Chicago that has connections to large healthcare corporations, his potential customers. It in turn connects him to other experts around the country that can answer his most pressing questions about go-to-market in the US. But Asaf is just one piece. As you can see, there are blue dots all over that represents incubators with their own core competencies. Connecting these incubators with entrepreneurs can accelerate the pace and spread of innovation around the world. In order to achieve this vision, we propose building on the strong foundation of local partnerships that Navi previously articulated. And then we see three key pillars to support a Meta Incubator: mindset, tools, and people. Of critical importance is the mindset. Incubators would need to buy into the mission and adopt a mentality of openness and sharing. In a way, incubators should think about creating their own version of the sharing economy. The premise there is that by sharing information, you can create incredible new value for the larger community. So I guess you could say we're calling for a digital Minga of incubators. Secondly, technology can be used to create new tools for sharing. The first step here would be for incubators to document their own resources in a consumable way, and then develop the platforms for distribution. Think about how awesome it would be to have a Yelp or an Angie's List for entrepreneurs, or an intranet to connect entrepreneurs to the most relevant mentor, no matter where that mentor was located. Once the right mindset and tools are in place, the right people with the specialized knowledge and specific needs can connect, build a global community, and get to the business of innovating in the world. So our solution to this challenge is for incubators, when they think about global partnerships, to first think creatively about what's in their local environment, and then to connect with each other globally. Yesterday, our challenger compared an incubator to a factory of innovation. But for a moment, maybe let's think about innovation as a hospital. If so, an incubator is the prenatal intensive care unit of the hospital. Ideas are born so early, maybe too early, and they need incredible nurturing and care in order to grow. So now we challenge all of you in your roles in the public sector, not-for-profits, businesses, large and small. How can you engage in the incubators in your communities? We can all be a part of growth for good in the Meta Incubator of entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Well done. Thanks to Team 1871. Local to go global, it sounds obvious, but actually if you think about it, there are good ways to do it and bad ways to do it. And also we had a discussion at the session about some individuals, not just institutions. Obviously we go to Kellogg and we go to University of Chicago and all these things. But they're individuals. Individuals are the people that make things happen. So like here in the room, we've had John Powers with us at the Kin. He has a love and deep connection to his home country of Ireland, lives here in Chicago. He's the guy if you need to go to Ireland. And of course, Karina Koskinen-Lusta, you met from Finland. You need anything in Finland, a good sauna, go talk to Karina. And so how do you bring them into these ecosystems to create the connections? Because they're doing them on a daily basis. The small teams that these meta entrepreneurs have can't maintain these global relationships. They need help to do that. So finally, Team Swire, I turn the floor to you.
Thank you all for being here with us today, and good morning. Over the past 9 weeks, we have been blessed enough to work with Sophia Swire and learn more about her organization, Future Brilliance. Hopefully, all of you yesterday were able to hear a little bit about her most recent accomplishments and some of the inspiring work that she's done in some of the most dangerous regions on Earth. We believe that Sophia and her organization, Future Brilliance, are distinctly positioned to be able to really capitalize on this year's KIN theme, Growth for Good, by targeting some of the poorest of the poor in some of the most dangerous regions on Earth. Sophia has spent more than a quarter of a century dedicating her life to helping women and men in some of these very dangerous regions by giving them an education and giving them skills that help fight poverty and inequality. In 1989, she founded her first school in Chitral, Pakistan, the Langlands College. Shortly after that, she founded her first organization, Learning for Life. Through this organization, she was able to start over 250 different schools in the Afghanistan-Pakistan region. After that, in 2007, Sophia decided to refocus her efforts and has been working in Afghanistan, helping women and men gain the artisanal skills that they need to start their own businesses and to expand the local economy. In 2012, she founded her current organization, which is Future Brilliance, in order to further execute upon this mission and help bring it to life. So Future Brilliance has had a number of key achievements in its very short lifespan. First, they've launched a successful pilot program which took 36 artisanal men and women from Afghanistan and gave them training in Jaipur, India, which allowed them to elevate their skills to the next level and really tackle the growing jewelry industry in Afghanistan. They were also given the skills to take these learnings that they had to expand them across the country and build an entire network of jewelry and artisanal skill set. Through that, the Ayenda brand was born. Yesterday, you heard from Rasul and Sarai, who are really embody what Ayenda has become and the future of this cooperative. Ayenda has given jobs to over 5 different jewelry designers in Afghanistan and over 1,500 jewelry makers and bead makers across the country. It has also given them the opportunity to gain some digital literacy through a separate initiative that Future Brilliance has put on that has connected them to the outside world, given them a direct access to their consumers, and also allowed them to have a global platform. However, Future Brilliance still faces a number of key challenges in this difficult region. The first is that the political and economic situation is often unstable. There's a number of extremist factions that are fueled by a lack of education and, more importantly, a lack of jobs. The region is highly dependent on foreign aid and often has difficulty gaining long-term commitments from their foreign supporters that are suffering from some donor fatigue. Additionally, there's always a mass exodus of professionals in these post-conflict regions. In these regions, there's a lack of managerial and higher-level business skills in order to stabilize the economy, bring about business development, and help economic growth. And finally, as Sarai mentioned yesterday, it still remains a very dangerous place for women. Women have very high rates of illiteracy in this region, particularly in the rural areas, and are often faced with a strict patriarchal culture that leaves them isolated and unable to contribute to the economy and their local growth. So what Sophia asked us was, what is next for Future Brilliance? What is Future Brilliance going to look like in 2020, 2025? And how can we capitalize on some of the current successes and come up with a new strategy and mission for Future Brilliance to build a sustainable transformational, and scalable model.
So to tackle this challenge, we spoke with dozens of Sophia's connections, including tablet manufacturers like DataWin, in-country schools like Afghan Institute for Learning, and digital content providers like the Artisan Toolkit, and many thought leaders in the space, along with other Future Brilliance students. We discovered that there were gaps that we believed Future Brilliance could face a pivotal role in addressing. The first was that many of these organizations had the same shared goals, but were acting simultaneously to solve them when they could enhance their impact by collaborating. Next was that they were still struggling to reach women, so we must come up with a solution that caters to women in their home and empowering them and connecting them to the outside world. And finally, there's been much investment in digital infrastructure. However, a digital divide still exists because of inconsistent access to tablets and technology education. So we must develop the workforce in order to take advantage of this infrastructure. So our solution was to redefine Future Brilliance's mission to empower women in post-conflict regions to be catalysts for peace and stability through enterprise development, training, and technology. Through collective impact, Future Brilliance will come up with a holistic opportunity for female entrepreneurs that utilizes technology, develops an in-skills curriculum, and provides mentorship and facilitates access to funding. What is collective impact? Collective impact is the idea that bringing organizations together and moving them in unison will create the most impactful and lasting social change. The first prong of this is having a shared vision. The next is having shared measurement towards executing this vision. The third is performing mutually reinforcing activities. And the fourth is continuous communication. We believe that Future Brilliance can be the backbone organization in bringing these partners together and driving them towards the collective impact of empowering and connecting women to the outside world in these post-conflict regions. In order to do this, Future Brilliance will create innovative public and private partnerships that use public funding and private expertise to help drive this collective impact towards its mission. Local partners will provide the curriculum and on-the-ground execution towards this mission. Technology partners will provide the tablets and connectivity that will reach women in their homes. Academic partners will allow us to identify and connect with the women we're seeking to reach, along with being pilot institutions to help us determine that our curriculum is the best serving curriculum. And finally, Sophia's connections with the local government will ensure that we retain government buy-in.
So how are we actually going to execute on this mission? Future Brilliance will partner with tablet manufacturers such as DataWind in order to bring upon solar-powered tablets that are low cost and will be preloaded with content and applications. This will ensure that learning can be brought to some of the regions with very little connectivity and really unstable electricity. Additionally, by training locals in tablet repairs, we will ensure that the women actually have a reliable source of technology support and infrastructure throughout their learning period. The tablets will include information that will be created or co-created through a series of partners that will bring together the curriculum. The curriculum will include literacy and numeracy, digital and technology literacy, coding, creative thinking, and entrepreneurial and leadership development. Specifically, the Entrepreneurial Toolkit will teach women about social media and e-commerce and give them the skills necessary to launch, start, and grow their own businesses. Future Brilliance will create partnerships with local and international organizations in order to bring upon this holistic curriculum and provide on-the-ground training and online training as well. In order to supplement the curriculum, we believe it is critical to have a very strong support network for these women to actually be able to be successful in their entrepreneurial endeavors. Through a dual-track mentorship program, Future Brilliance will bring upon women who have previously been isolated in their homes through both local and global connections. First, Future Brilliance will create an online forum and orchestrate meetings within country in order to create a community of like-minded women that can share ideas and connect with one another. Additionally, by utilizing Sophia's vast network, Future Brilliance will build a global entrepreneurial network that will provide one-on-one mentorship and support for these women to learn from some of the best entrepreneurs around the world. The last part of our model includes providing access to funding, as we understand that this is a key component to actually ensure that the women are able to launch their businesses. Therefore, Future Brilliance will partner with microfinance institutions in order to facilitate access to funding opportunities so that they can really launch and grow businesses. Future Brilliance will, in order to make this vision a reality, pilot this program in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. Sophia will go back to where it all began 25 years ago in Tachral, Pakistan, and the school where she first founded in order to be able to bring entrepreneurial and business development skills to these women. At the same time, in Afghanistan, Future Brilliance will continue developing artisanal skills and expand their digital literacy program. By piloting in both Afghanistan and Pakistan, Future Brilliance will be able to solidify this content and really create a business that will bring stability to some of the most unstable regions in the world today. So through this vision, Future Brilliance will will bring together 1,000 isolated candles to create a single beacon of light. Each one of you in this room is a luminary. Take a moment to think about what are the key moments in your life that have allowed you to have your own inner brilliance. Just imagine what we could do if we all came together to collaborate on this vision. How much light could we bring to some of these post-conflict regions? Thank you.
Well done. So for a moment, let's have all of the Kin Challenge students stand so we see everybody, all the Kin students. Sophia is someone, so that school they were talking about in Pakistan, she actually founded that 2 decades ago, and it still exists, and it's still training students. It's quite impressive. She can go back, she's going back, it's already on her calendar, and she's doing this. Anybody interested or able to help in some way? We also have some of the jewelry displayed over there if anyone's interested in taking a look and having a chat with Storai. By the way, to get Storai here, Ambassador McKinley, our U.S. ambassador to Afghanistan, had to send a note to the U.S. Embassy in Kabul to let them know that this young lady who was being invited to speak at a business school, this young lady who hasn't gone to business school, this young lady who's just some jewelry designer, she said, her visa was rejected. Now we understand why, because there are thousands of people trying to get a visa and trumping up stories. It's got to be tough. And the story didn't make any sense. She had an invite from me. Who the heck am I? We had to play some cards with our friends, and Ambassador McKinley made it possible for her to get here. So the 8 weeks you've spent so far, teams, have been exciting and meaningful, and I thank you for that. You might notice in your book the picture of Ben Kojo. I didn't know him that well, to be honest. As a teacher, you know the student in class. Occasionally you have interactions with them outside of the class. Some of them you have lifelong relationships with. I see some of you here in this room today, and I'm so grateful for that. But things move fast. And Ben was a present student. He was engaged. He was very bright and even a little funny on a regular basis with a smirk on his face when he would throw out a joke at you. He was also usually overdressed. And he said to another student who'd questioned him why he was often in a suit, "Do you have an interview?" And he said, "Do I have to have an interview to look good?" So he was in class one Thursday night, sitting up front, doing well. He had had health problems for some time, but he was getting much better. His doctors, everyone thought he was doing much better. And the next morning, I received an email that one of our own had passed away. I didn't know it was Ben. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And then I found out it was Ben. And I have to admit, it hit me, it hit all of us very much. And I almost feel guilty that it did because I didn't know Ben that well. And that's why I felt guilty. So I'm so grateful to be able to spend the time with all of the students, with all of you here in this room. And this is one of the reasons, by the way, that we do this Kin Global thing. So we can get these busy people who are just doing too much and can't make the time to connect and to think about what's truly important, to be here together for that intensity, for that duration, for that susceptibility, and for that infection.